Let me hit you with a truth bomb. Most analysts are too afraid or too lazy to say it out loud. China isn't the future. India is the future. I made a video recently called Why India Will Outlast China, and it received great response. The comments, the engagement, the debate. It made one thing crystal clear. People are waking up to the fact that the old China narrative is cracking. But today I want to go deeper, not just why India will outlast China, but why India will surpass it economically. Not today, not tomorrow, but when the history books are written 50 years from now, one thing will be obvious. India played the long game and won. Let me show you why. I'll be honest, I grew up in the golden age of the China miracle. Skyscrapers in 18 months, high speed rail, export factories pumping out the world's goods like clockwork. It was hard not to be impressed. Even as a diaspora Chinese kid, I was told that this is what a serious country looks like. Be proud of your motherland. India, by contrast, every one of my Chinese friends laughed it off. Too messy, too poor, too democratic. Well, guess what? All that mess turned out to be India's immune system against dictatorship, decay, and decline. China built fast. India built resilient. And now that China's model is cracking under the weight of its own control freak tendencies, ghost cities, youth unemployment, demographic collapse, India's messiness is starting to look a lot like long-term health. Let's kill the myth once and for all. China's growth wasn't some magical product of CCP's genius. It was the temporary result of escaping Maoism and plugging into global capitalism. Authoritarianism didn't cause the boom. It's what Xi Jinping brought back in. It's what's now causing the China bust. India, on the other hand, didn't get a steroid injection. No one handed India trillions in foreign investment. No one made it the world's factory. India has been grinding, reforming, digitizing, building from the inside out. It took time. It was frustrating sometimes. But that's what real democracies do. They take time to build institutions that actually last. You know what China's biggest fear is? That India is getting younger and smarter, while China is getting older and angrier. India graduates more engineers, MBAs every year than China now. And not just in quantity, but in ambition, hunger, and global reach. You go to Silicon Valley today, and the nameplates on the doors are overwhelmingly Indian. Indian immigrants didn't just assimilate, they took over. But here's the twist. This wasn't brain drain. This was brain export. And now India is turning that brain power inward. Meanwhile, China's youth are being told to lie flat, eat bitterness, and obey the party. That's not a workforce. That's a burnout epidemic. Now let's talk about the numbers that Xi Jinping cannot manipulate. Population trends. China is already past peak population. It's not just aging, it's shrinking fast. That's what happens when you run the world's largest social experiment and tell its people they can only have one kid, and then act surprised when no one wants more than one kid even after the policy ends. The result? A rapidly aging society with too few young workers to support its elderly. Now contrast that with India. half of India's population is under 30. That's not just a youth wave, that is a productivity wave, a consumption wave, an innovation wave. And in a world looking for growth, India is the last great demographic engine left. China bet on control. India bet on people. One chose shrinking obedience, the other chose massive vitality. Guess which one scales better? People love to say, oh, India is too chaotic to get anything done. Let me ask you something. Would you rather live in a country where one man can build a road overnight, or one where no man can build a prison camp overnight? China's so-called efficiency came at a huge cost. Freedom, feedback, flexibility. India, on the other hand, allowed the chaos, the protests, the opposition, the mess. And you know what that gave them? Course correction. Democracies stumble, but they learn. Autocracies cruise until they crash. And let's get real. Nobody trusts China anymore. Not in Africa, not in Europe, not even in Southeast Asia. Why? Because China didn't rise like a partner. It rose like a bully. From wolf warrior diplomacy to death traps, cyber attacks to military aggression, China made enemies faster than it made friends. Its entire diplomatic playbook is built on fear, coercion, and control. Meanwhile, India isn't throwing elbows. It's building bridges from Quad to BRICS to G20 hosting duties. India is seen as a credible, capable, and cooperative global player. It's not just tolerated, it's respected. Indian engineers run Silicon Valley. Indian doctors run hospitals in London. Indian diplomats run UN negotiations with the skills of seasoned statesmen. And here's the kicker. India doesn't have to be anti-China or pro-America. It's playing all sides with confidence. That is soft power. That is diplomacy. That is trust. And trust is the currency of the next world order. Let's be real. China's economy is not going through a slowdown. It's going through a structural collapse. A housing crisis that makes 2008 look like tame. A youth unemployment so high they stopped publishing the numbers. A shrinking population that's baked in for the next 50 years. Local governments drowning in invisible debt. A political system that punishes truth and rewards flattery. This is not rebalancing. This is a plain losing altitude with no one in the cockpit willing to admit it, and it's going to crash. In contrast, India is building the right way. Let's talk hard numbers, shall we? World's fastest growing major economy, second largest smartphone market, third largest startup ecosystem, nearly universal digital ID and banking infrastructure, massive investments in semiconductors, AI, and clean energy. And here's what's not in the numbers. A confident young population that believes in its future. A society that, for all its flaws, allows criticism, innovation. A government that still answers to voters, not dictators. India isn't perfect, far from it. But unlike China, it hasn't maxed out its model. It's just getting started. Let me wrap this with a personal truth. I used to believe China would dominate the 21st century. Now, I believe India will define it. Not by trying to be the next China, but by being a better India. Because while China sprinted fast for 40 years and now gasps for air, India trained for the marathon. The next few decades won't be about who grew faster. They'll be about who lasts longer, adapts better, and inspires more. And in that race, my bet is on India, not China. Every single time.